Hey everyone, another walkie-talkie video for you, and I actually don't have my sunglasses on today, which is annoying because I keep looking into the viewfinder thing as opposed to the lens, but just bear with me, like, you know, I just can't, it's so fucking weird. Anyways, so yeah, today I'm just going to do a little story time because I don't actually have much time today. I'm working pretty much constantly, so story time video it is. And this is quite a funny one actually. Okay, so last year I was in the gym, and it was a gym that I used to go to, and I was the only girl that trained weights in the weight room and everything, and some of the guys that were there at that always there at the same time as me were the biggest gangsters in the city. And when I mean gangsters, I mean like really bad gangsters, right? But I got on with them because we just used to have a bit of banter, and they called me their little mascot and things, and it was good fun, you know. And so there was one day that we were leaving the gym, and Scotland being Scotland, it was pissing rain, and sorry, I'm just waiting to cross a road here, that's why I'm thinking. Yeah, so it was pissing rain, and I mean actually so bad, and it was actually my brother's graduation that day, and I was like, I'm going to get soaked for this. And as I was leaving, one of the guys, the gangsters, he was like, we just kind of went, oh man, this weather is terrible, and I was like, oh I know, and he goes, where are you going? And I was like, I told him where I lived, and he was like, well, I drive past that way. And I knew he did because I kind of knew where he lived. And he asked me if I wanted a lift, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure, cool. So got into his car, this pure big, massive, flashy Jeep with just the full works of everything, as you can imagine. So I went in there, 5-minute drive back to my house. He dropped me off, and then he drove away. And then there's a little shop just round the corner from my house, and I remembered I had nothing for my lunch. So I went to the shop, picked up something for lunch, and then I left the shop. And as I left the shop, I felt two hands grab each of my arms, and I thought I was being mugged. And I was like, help, get in. That was my first thing. I was like, get your hands off me, and I was panicking, and then a voice in my ear just went, police, get in the car. And I was like, what the fuck? And it was two plainclothes police officers in an unmarked vehicle, and they basically shoved me into the back of the car, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? And they shoved me in the car, locked the car, and then turned around and said, why were you with that guy? And I was like, because he was giving me a lift. And then they went, no, why were you really with that guy? And I was like, because he was giving me a lift home, it's pissing rain. And then they were like, no, like, you better, and they were up at my face going like that, you better tell the fucking truth here, or this is going to come back and get you in court. And I was like, what the hell? And I saw the guy who was who had given me a lift. They'd brought him in, another two guys had brought him in, right? And he was getting marched into the station, his hands behind his back, handcuffed and everything. And then he saw me and he was like, just gave me this big smile. And I was like, oh aye, you're smiling, this is like an everyday occurrence for you. Here's me, little innocent Lauren, sitting in the back of this car like a criminal, right? So eventually I got taken in to the station, into a cell and everything. But before that, actually, they took my bag, and they had this is the funny bit. They had a sniffer dog at my bag, and it had its head in, and then they pulled out a bag of white powder. They pulled out a bag of white powder. What was that powder? It was protein powder. Obviously, I'd just been at the gym, and that was my little stash of protein powder. And they just looked at me, and I was like, guys, it's protein powder. So yeah, it couldn't have got any worse, man. Thinking I'm a drug mule and then pulling out some white powder out of my bag. So they found nothing in my bag. It was dodgy. So I got chucked in a cell. I was in there for ages, for hours, And then eventually they came and they took me out and took me to a little interview room, and they grilled me so bad. They were up at my face, they treated me like, it was like guilty until proven innocent, that's what it was like. And the guy who was doing the questioning was asking the same questions over and over again, obviously trying to trip me up in some way, but there was no way to trip me up because I hadn't done anything wrong. And then he came up to my face and he was like, I've got nothing on you. I don't know who you are, but believe you me, I'm going to find out, and when I do. And I was like, I just goes like that to him, brilliant. Well, see, when you do find out who I really am, I'll accept your apology. And then he just like then he got angry because I'd spoken to him like that. But the way that I was treated was so fucking bad. So I was in there, and eventually it was about, I was getting questioned for ages. And then this detective guy who'd been questioning me, came back in, and he sat down, bumped his hands on the table and just stared me out for a few minutes, and he goes, I'm going to have to let you go. And I was like, oh well, what they do? Why is that then? And he goes, because your story matches up with his, and I can't find anything else on you. And I was like, well, maybe the reason my story matches up with his is because it's the truth, and the reason that he can't find anything on me is because I'm a pretty good citizen. And then he just was like, you're a cheeky boot. And I goes, well, he didn't say boot, he said you're one cheeky girl or something like that. And I just went like that, no, I'm just telling the truth. So I eventually, with no apology for the way I was treated, it was fucking awful, right? I eventually got released. This was about 7 o'clock at night. So my phone was given back to me, which obviously had been taken away for all these hours, and I had loads, absolutely millions of missed calls and texts off my family, which they were initially angry, why are you not here? And then they were like worried, like, Lauren, where are you, like, because I'd not been back in touch with them. And I tried to get back in touch, and as I was texting, the phone cut out of battery, and I was like, shit. But I knew where they were going for my brother's graduation meal, so I got a taxi there, and they were all there, like all my whole family sitting having this graduation meal. I walk in, soaked to the bone, in old, sweaty, horrible gym gear, all dusty and everything after being in this fucking cell, just feeling disgusting. I walk in, and they just stared at me, and I was like, I've spent the afternoon in a cell or in the police station. So yeah, as you can imagine, my family, they were all like, oh, what the fuck? But yeah, I stole the show at my brother's graduation. No, I'm kidding on, like, I didn't really, but as you can imagine, that took up the rest of the evening's conversation. Poor brother, he just like graduated a 4-year degree, and everyone just wanted to know why I had been arrested and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, my family all found it funny, and I'm actually kind of glad it happened in a way, because it gives me like this kind of funny story to tell and something funny to kind of look back on, because let's face it, it is kind of hilarious. Little innocent, law-abiding citizen Lauren, usually, obviously. I'm kidding on, I am actually a good person, believe it or not. Getting fucking arrested for being thought to be a drug mule. So yeah, fun times. But anyway guys, thanks for listening to my little story time, and I shall talk to you soon.